Hello. In this episode, we talk with Jonathan Dell, one of the current custodians of Rolemaster and who helped get RMU over the line. Talk about how he got into the hobby, how he got involved in the project, what he did on the project, what he likes about RMU, what he doesn't like about RMU, and even at the end, we'll have a little giveaway. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks very much for joining me for this.
My
It's
pleasure.
quite kind of a little bit fanboyish to be speaking to one of the creators of Rollmaster. But let's start with a nice simple question. How did you get into our hobby? What got you on? What got you started?
So, a very long time ago, my father, who was not a gamer, saw this new game in a store and got it for me, and it was the original D&D before it said basic on the box, and he didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't either. And I can tell you when we were playing, we didn't know what we were doing. But that was the beginning, and then I started looking, at other games, and quickly D&D was not my favorite, but there were a lot in those days, so we played lots of things. And
What was it? What was it turns you off from D&D?
I like more detail, more freedom to define your character, the crunch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because I think I've said this on previous podcasts. As we never actually got D&D to start off with, we just missed out by accident. So we came to it late, and by that point, we'd come across things like critical tables, and that's what we thought. That's what role playing was. So we're wondering, where's what? So I can shoot this person who's running away, and they're going to get away no matter how good I roll. I think, oh no, God, bring us
Yeah.
back to Merp or Rollmaster. Do you currently play? I mean, do you have time to play?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm running RMU, which is important because, when you're making up rules, you should know if they work. And then I'm also playing D&D 3.5, not because it's my favorite system, but because it's the GM's favorite system, and that, what the GM says goes, and he runs a good game.
You didn't go down the Pathfinder first edition route then for instead of playing 3.5.
I played a little bit of Pathfinder, and we're lifting little elements from Pathfinder. It's definitely better balanced than 3.5, which is a mess, but that's not what we're doing now.
Do you play face to face?
Yes, I always prefer to play face to face. Of course, during the pandemic, like everyone else, I did a bunch of online playing, but we were happy to get past that.
Yeah, have you tried out Bob's mod on Foundry?
I actually haven't. We did use a lot of Roll20, again, during the pandemic when we had to. But for my own tabletop, I have a homebrew system that handles all the attack rolls and combat tracking and so forth. So I don't have a favorite of any of the three implementations of Rollmaster for online use, but I definitely recommend doing some kind of automation. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it can help with, especially with the crunchier systems. Do the people that you play with, are they guys you played with for a while now? Yep.
Yeah, so we're kind of spread all over New England, so it does make it a little harder to get people together. But it is people that I've played with for a long time. They all experience the rules differently. Some of them are very interested in the rules. Some of them are only interested in the role play, and they tell me what they want to do, and I figure out what that means in game terms.
Does
Um,
that flavor what you do with the actual RMU when you're working on it? Almost like play testing, I guess.
oh yeah, definitely. Things need to be intuitive enough that someone can make those choices without having studied the rules in detail.
Yeah. I mean, were you with Rollmaster to start off with, like from the sort of the get-goes in the 80s, or did you come later on?
Yeah, so, in the '80s, so it was the original edition of Rolemaster. We played a little MERP, we played some Rolemaster, and then I kinda took a break, did more GURPS for a while, and then in grad school, a friend of mine was gonna start a campaign, and I convinced him to do it in Rolemaster Standard System, and we played that for quite a few years.
Wow.
And then
My hats off to you, my friend. I mean, I remember trying to do it through show my age, play by electronic mail. There was somebody running one of those campaigns, and
Right.
there was a kin strife, but it was with RMSS, and I tried it. I kind of bounced off it a bit, and I'm quite mathematical, but I was like, oh God, no, I couldn't do it. So fair play to you for sticking with that.
Well, I did write an Excel sheet that many people use as a character sheet for standard system, so that helped a lot. It allowed people to make the characters without doing all that math, and then I also started doing my own automation for combat at that point, and so again, made those things easier. But then once, the RMU playtest started, I started running those right away.
Do you have like a favorite version of Rolemaster?
Oh, RMU for sure. I guess I would say the original Rolemaster was a really good kit that you could build a game out of, but it wasn't really a game. It was some assembly required, and there were too many pieces in the box. And
Right.
then the
Yeah.
standard system tried to validate everything, and so it was a lot more coherent, but it had all the pieces, and it was too much. Uh,
Right.
RMU, I think, strikes a much better balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Obviously,
hopefully,
I was able to put some of my opinions in the system, so that helped. But even before I had that opportunity, I already liked it better.
I think we'll go into a bit more detail about the RMB later on. Uh,
Mhm.
do you have like, I mean, you're a Rolemaster through and through. So I mean, do you have like a favorite like crit table? I think I asked Bob this, and is there a particular one you've got, and you can result that sticks in your brain?
There is one that I particularly love on the cold table, and I don't know who wrote it. I know a lot of people were involved in writing those tables, but this one just stuck with me, which is foe's ear grows white as frostbite gnaws at it like a hungry winter wolf of living cold described by a frustrated novelist. And I
And
feel
that's in,
whoever wrote that was channeling something deep within themselves.
and that's in RMB, is it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fantastic. Really good.
my favorite.
I mean, what got you started working with Iron Crown?
So there was an open play test for RMU that started, I don't know, a really long time ago, and I came across that and joined the forums and gave them lots of input. And there was a point where they reached out to me to help with some writing and rules decisions, mostly Matt Hansen. And then that became official in 2015. And then over the course of time, because the playtest ran on so long, people started
Yeah.
to run out of time and drop off the team. And it turns out from the from listening to interviews of other people who were involved, it sounds like there were also a lot of internal conflicts,
Right.
which had maybe driven some people out. So when I came in, those things were moot because those people were all gone. Uh,
Right. And that was
and
2015, was it? Or would you say this will kind of happen prior to that?
yeah, I don't know the exact timeline, but 2015 is where I was officially signed on, and then it wasn't that long after that that Matt ran out of time to work on it, so I was no longer assisting him. I was suddenly um, leading, which was kind of a surprise to me. So this is what happens when you post too much on forums. Is that's the upshot of that. Uh, but but of course I enjoyed that. I really like working with rules. I enjoyed the playtest discussions. I was playing the game. I really liked the system. So I was very happy to get more and more involved as time passed.
So mentioned there about the crit table. You said, oh, I don't know who wrote that. And it says you came in and there was other team members. So how
Yeah.
was sort of RMU chopped up? Like how to get it developed?
Yeah. So there were, from my understanding, there were a bunch of people involved, especially with the core rules, and there were rules that touch all the books. There were books that were led by one particular person, like Dan or Dan Henry. Um, had most of the responsibility for spell law and for treasure law. He did a great job
Right.
when I
Kind of like
joined.
divvied up then into like what the core books would be. It was like, okay, you guys are doing spell, or you're going to work on this, or was it like well, there are several people's working on maybe the core mechanics?
I think originally it was everyone has to make the big decisions because, for example, like how is the combat round going to work, and the decision to make it action points rather than percentile needed to be reflected in all the spells. So there were more people involved, but I think like Dan, I think was just following their lead ultimately at that point, and
W- Were
and
you aware of
I
those
honestly
limits?
don't know all the rest of what they were fighting about.
uh, so were you aware of what the initial considerations were when they were like, okay, let's do the new version? These are core kind of concepts, or that kind of was already molded in really, and it just took somebody like yourself to really push it forward and get it into the deliverable product.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the charge was. Listening to, like, Corey Majel, it sounded like he didn't think there was one, and that was one of the problems that kept them fractious, was they didn't have the same vision.
Right.
Certainly from my perspective, I would say, Rolemaster Classic was just kind of bogged down by the incoherency of just having so many options, and then Standard System by having too many pieces. So for me, the goal was always just to make a system that was a lot more clear, better organized, pick out the areas where the complexity was not contributing to the game and get rid of those,
Yeah.
and then keep the things where it did add something.
What was the first thing you worked on then when you sort of sat down in 2015, looked at this? Because I think there was there were some PDFs floating around then. Because I remember playing a game with Chris
Oh
Seal,
yeah,
and it was the beta version of what will become RMU.
yeah. There were at least 2 beta versions released, maybe 3. I did a bunch of writing on the like adding detail to the cultures,
Right.
adding role play detail to the stats. I did some just reorganization, move chapters around. The original structure was more like explain all the things, then walk you through making a character, and that kind of splits the rules in 2 different places. And we don't do that now. Now it's walking through the character building is explaining those parts. So that's all in one place. So that was some restructuring that I did, and I did similar sorts of things in the other books too.
Was there any bits that kind of really bogged you down? Sort of trying to, I suppose you more one word like trying to grok it, trying to get it to work.
Yeah, well, so the biggest fight was always going to be how the combat round works
Right.
because prior to RMU there were about 40 different systems, and we're down to 2, which isn't bad, but I'm sure a lot of people aren't running it exactly as written. So that was a big fight, and there were many little pieces of that. Another issue that came up just in playtesting was, of course, we have the system with criticals where you can take injuries, and those injuries penalize your action. So, like, your arm is broken, and the injury penalties were too high, and the amount of damage on the tables was too low,
Right.
and that meant that the way you would defeat a foe was by accumulating minus 200 worth of penalties on them, and his hit points were irrelevant because he wouldn't get through those before he hit minus 200 penalties.
I like
And
that
and
because
the
it's
end of
kind of
that
like
fight,
you're wearing them down, aren't they? To like they're still
yeah,
standing, but they just can't raise their
yeah.
sword.
But the fight also isn't that interesting because when they're at minus 100, they're already kind of irrelevant. So you're just like, well, I just keep rolling the dice and rolling dice. Eventually, we're going to finish this.
Yeah, fair
So
enough.
so we retuned that, lowered the penalties, increased the damage, increased the damage on the crit tables, and I think that's well balanced now. But that was definitely a thing that took a bunch of tweaking to get there.
So I suppose the flip coin of that, and is there any real areas that you're quite proud of then that you think, yeah, that went well?
Well, the biggest thing is we got out the door. uh, so that was exciting, and for me right now, I'm excited because the next book out, the character companion, is the one that I wrote the whole thing,
Right.
rather than just joining in. So that is in layout, and I've already done a first pass of editing, but there's always a bunch of back and forth on that.
I'll invite you back if you can, Joel, if you ever spare me some time, tell us about that one then.
Sure.
My finger's not on the pulse as much as it should be, really, for especially if I do these kind of interviews. I probably should be a bit more nerdy about this thing, but probably like
Yeah.
yourself, I play different systems and I don't keep on top of them all. Community-wise, playtest, did it help much?
Oh, absolutely. I didn't even join except because there was a discussion going on with the community, right? I came out of the
Right.
community. So I always enjoyed that. I like to engage with people and hear opinions. Obviously, I can't agree with everybody, but I try and at least say, here's why I don't agree. And go ahead and try that house rule, but here are the things that I think are going to be the consequences.
Yeah, I mean, you're
But
quite
but
active, aren't you, on the ICE Discord?
yes, and I definitely encourage anyone to come and join us there. But,
Yeah.
even there, you have opinions. So I have a dedication in the rule book to someone for loyal opposition because, we fought so much, but he did make a lot of really useful suggestions, because he cared about what came out.
No, good. Yeah, I mean, because that's kind of a pretty loaded question. You say you get any help from the community because sometimes you get a bit of hindering from the community. But I suppose if they're playing, I suppose
I
devil's
I think
advocate.
it's fair to say that some of the people who were involved at the beginning, who did not make it through all the way through the process, it's because the community just wore them down with constant criticism. So it
Right.
is a balance.
Someone new to Rolemaster, can play RMU, and obviously we've got people like yourself and myself who've been playing Rolemaster since the beginning days. Did you have to try and balance those two kinds of players with the new version of RMU? Well, new version of Rolemaster RMU.
Yeah, you definitely have to think about, like, what are the things that people really see as role master? What are the things they're never gonna be willing to give up? Definitely, you can't expect that, like, all the veterans, they're not all gonna switch to the system. They've been running their campaigns. They've got everything stat in the old system. They know it backwards and forwards. So you can't write with the assumption that you're gonna convert everyone. But that said, there are things like I would have been happy to get rid of stats, percentile stats, and just use bonuses all the way through. And that was something just people weren't going to accept. And I would have been happy to get rid of potentials.
When you say
That
people, Jonathan, do you mean like you sort of did a
veterans.
poll to the community? Oh, okay, okay, right, fair enough.
Yeah, and like veterans were never going to give up the potential stats. So
Right,
okay, that's fine. We'll just leave them in.
okay. What do you think the biggest change is then from RM to RMU?
But the biggest things, the skill list is distilled down to something manageable. Talents have a bigger role than in previous systems. It's kind of optional add-on in standard system, and now it's much more important. And then armor actually works. It's beneficial to wear armor pretty much all the time, unless you're swimming. Whereas in the older system, sometimes the assumptions about mobility that were baked into the tables meant you're really better off not wearing it. And that didn't make
Yeah,
as much sense.
I love those talents. Without giving anything too much, is there a plan in the future to introduce more talents?
Yeah, there are a ton in the character companion. There are also optional rules about limiting or maybe explaining where you got your talent. So it's not completely open season, but some of them maybe they're things you're born with, they're things you get from training. There are things that like some amazing thing happens in game and justifies you getting that going forward. So a lot more options there. But yeah, lots more talents, also more flaws because those are really good materials
Yeah,
for roleplay.
yeah, really good. I mean, we play Savage Worlds quite a lot, and I quite like the was it hindrances and
Mhm.
obviously the edges. Yeah, they're quite good, and they're really, especially you get some hindrances, you can really role play off those.
And one of the things, not to go too far into that, is linking those flaws to the talents. So there is something that limits the talent, or like you're really strong, but you're accidentally breaking things all the time. So that helps make it part of one coherent story.
That was one of those old sort of background options, wasn't it, where you had to make a conscious effort not to
Right.
like break the mug. Yeah, love
There's lots of
great,
stuff going
great
there.
flavor.
Yeah.
So, someone buys RMU. What advice would you give them if they're actually brand new to RMU?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. We have both the Discord and the forum where lots of people will be involved and give them advice. I think for people who are used to gaming, it's not really that complex. Maybe some of the tables look scary, but in terms of the actual mechanics, it's not that complicated. Just there's a lot of moving parts to pay attention to.
I
And
think for me, it's
and
the you know the four parts to a turn. I think it's or is it phase? I'm
oh, the
not
action
using
points. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not using the correct terminology here. And I did a bit of solo play, and I kept like I'm going to climb, and I kept rolling. I think every phase for a climb, and I think hang on, I don't think that's how it's done. I think you roll
Right.
once and say you go that far in this phase, then that in this next phase. If I'm using the right terminology here,
All right, so I personally use the faster rounds option. So just on your turn, you do your full round's worth of actions,
but
and it plays faster. I would recommend that personally. Some people like the additional detail, and that's great. And if you like it, it's there. But I think for someone starting off, it's going to play faster. It's going to be easier. Just say, okay, you have 4 action points. What are you doing with them?
right, okay, okay. That is an optional as well. I think I've got to have read that, so maybe I should do that because I did.
Mhm.
That was tripping me too much. I just thought, well, you're not playing it enough. So if you keep playing it,
Yeah,
you
I,
better
I
understand it.
almost wish that we had made that the main rule, and then the playing by phases was the optional rule. But they're
Fair
both
enough.
there.
If it was up to you, where would you take RMU next?
I want more. There's so much great material from the previous editions. I would like to have more of that updated. I would like to have more new stuff. I'd love to have just more stuff coming out faster pace. Right now Iron Crown is all freelancers, so that limits how fast we can work on things.
Yeah. One thing that I didn't get in the old system was the companions, because there was like
Mhm.
quite a lot of companions. And is that a good little place to mine to cherry pick stuff out of?
Yeah, there's a ton of great material. It's not all very well balanced because it was basically people wrote in with the things that they tried in their own campaigns. So it's just this hodgepodge of different things from different games that was never play tested together. So it needs some work. Uh,
Yeah.
and my intention is that as companions come out, they're going to be themed rather than just like here's a companion one that's just a mix of whatever we happen to have on hand. So the character companion is going to have more character building options. I have a draft of the arcane companion,
Mhm.
which I've edited and is back to the author, which obviously is going to have arcane magic and professions for that. We have someone working on a battlefield companion that will have more martial oriented
Wow.
professions. I have am partway through writing a wilderness book. So trying to have some unifying themes. It won't necessarily be the same themes as standard system where there was like mentalism, essence, channeling. Maybe do those things too. It kind of depends on what people come to us with an idea to write.
Well,
Um,
that was one of my next questions, Jesse Johnson, was
mhm.
what tips would you give to somebody who is like, is hearing this and going, like, I'd like to do something like that one day. How could they get into it? And not necessarily with Iron Crown, just get into the whole sort of like a sphere of doing this.
Yeah, so I'd say this: the first thing is just get involved. Start tinkering. It's easier to start tinkering with an existing system than writing a whole rule system from scratch. So I'd say start there, interact with other people, um, play test a lot because having ideas is not the limiting part. It is making sure that they work and that other people who read your ideas can understand what you're trying to say. And you get a lot of that feedback by interacting with other people on the forums and Discord and so forth, whatever the community is for whatever game you're interested in. And then there are some other communities, like Rising Tide has a Discord, and that is people who are involved in all kinds of tabletop role-playing game creation.
I've never heard
So
of that before. Rising Tide.
yeah, it's really good. And then specifically for Rolemaster, if someone wants to write for Rolemaster, the best thing to do would be to get in touch with me or with Nicholas Caldwell, but it's going to be easier to get a quick response from me. And ultimately, what we would want is a proposal and some sample writing, but it's all freelancers. So if someone has an idea for a book and it fits in with what we want to do, I'm happy to talk with people and reach an agreement about what exactly should be in there and have something going forward.
Is there any kind of like house style document that they need to adhere to, or can it just be quite loosey goosey initially?
Yeah, I have something like that I am in the process of putting together. So if someone were to come to me, I could give them my draft style guide that would give them some things, some basic things about spellcaster is one word and names of spells are italicized, and all that kind of basic stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, how do they get hold of you then, Jonathan?
the easiest thing would be to contact me either through the forums or Discord.
Okay. The Iron Crown forums is on their website, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how would they get hold of RMU?
And RMU is sold through Drive Through RPG. So that is either PDFs or print on demand or bundles. And you can also get Era and Foundry and Roll20 support through that same platform.
If they bought it, they get help from, I think you've already mentioned it earlier, Discord. Is there anywhere else they can get help using RMU?
Yeah. So also the forums on the Iron Crown site, the forums are less active. The advantage is it's easier to go back and search and see what people have already discussed, where Discord is like you're turning on a fire hose of content and you have to keep up with the flow. So depending on people's pace, either of those are good. And I do respond for RMU stuff, both places pretty fast.
Cool. All right. Is there anything you want to say to the listeners? Bear in mind that people listening to you right now are quite niche because we're a niche hobby with a niche system.
For for everyone else out there, I would say, if you haven't tried this game, I'd love to have people try it. I'd love to have people come and give us your stories, what happened, even if it's a what didn't work, but also what worked, what people enjoyed. It's always great to get that feedback.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Jonathan, and I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
And that's where we'll leave that one. Thanks very much to Jonathan for giving up his time. And since recording that interview, Character Companion has been released. You can get it on drive-thru. Now, giveaway. Maybe can help you get a copy of the Character Companion. Iron Crown Enterprises were kind enough to offer a $10 drive-thru certificate. And I'm going to add $15 to that certificate. So you can get $25 certificate altogether for one of you lovely listeners, if you can do the following thing. Mail me at vids@wolfshield.co.uk, and what I'd like you to do is give me your stories of using Rolemaster. How those criticals, were those great criticals, those bad criticals, those moments that Rolemaster give you. I'm going to read through them all, and the top one that I like the most, I will get in contact with you, get your email address, and send you that certificate. Now, the closing date for that is the end of September, so September 30th, 2026, in case you're listening to this in the far future. Other than that, thanks very much. What shall I do next time? I think I'm going to talk to Bob and see what he's done with Rolemaster Unified on Foundry VTT. Thanks for listening. Cheers.